Hello everyone, welcome to our channel. My name is Roshan.
And I'm Avi, and we have our special guest again today with us, Priyam, and you're watching the Real Nonsense podcast. Thank you, Priyam, for coming to our show today. And guys, today's topic, what we are going to discuss is racism. As an Indian, this is not something which is so far away for us. It's very fresh for us. I mean, we have been a victim of racism for years, for ages, and why it just takes one life of George Floyd to actually bring this up into the light, and how people have been quiet for entire decades, and so this is what we're going to discuss today, and I'll probably ask Priyam to start the topic, the podcast.
Yeah, again, thanks for having me over here. It's great talking to you guys. And yeah, I very sensitive topic today. I mean, it's very important to discuss these things these days. It's become very important to talk about these things. Like, we have come a long way from what it used to be, right? What the world used to be. If you see, especially in the Indian context, if you see 10 years ago, 15 years ago, we never really talked about racism. I mean, it was there. It was a part of our everyday lives, right? Like, suppose, Avi, you are Bengali. How many times have you heard the same joke ke mujhe mein hai? And
Yes, I
things,
mean,
things like that. Like, I am Gujarati. Every third person who meets me is like, my dal is too sweet.
we have people with all types of skin colors from the north. You have people who look like as white as milk. You have down south where people are darker, and you have brown colored people. So even in our country, when I have seen, we have grown up seeing that अरे ये तो काला है, अरे ये तो बहुत सफेद है, so it's not that our society has been completely away from this. I mean, we have been part of it. We have been part of the problem as well.
As a culture, we have grown up with racism, not realizing, again, a lot of people don't realize that they might be, being racist towards someone, which is how it works here nowadays. There's more awareness. People know what can offend someone, but then as you mentioned, racism based on color is one thing, but in India there are, again, based on the features, based on what clothes they wear, based on how they look. We have this ongoing problem with Northeast.
Anybody who comes from the northeast, I think has been said stuff, has been, I mean, has been, they have been called chinkies, they have been called Chinese. So this is something which is very silly and very ignorant, and I don't know, I mean, I have other words to say, but I would say this is very naive from our society, because I think even as our country internally, we have not educated ourselves that much, that even the generations which are coming up now, they're still the same. I mean, I have not seen much changes, though, at least in our country, if I say.
Growing up, you used to come across these Sardar jokes, which is
I mean, I
Absolutely.
think I am guilty of doing it myself.
also, if you go down south, people who wear lungis,
Yeah,
Yeah.
people have like madrasis.
Coconut. So Rushan here speaks one of the most flawless Kathiawadi, which is a very specific dialect of Gujarati, which is limited to the northwestern Gujarat region, and he still gets called Chinese.
I mean, I haven't faced any kind of strong racism or something against how I look or how I dress up in Gujarat, especially. But yes, some people who are curious have asked me, but I wouldn't deny that a lot of innocent people, I would say, may have called me, but I haven't faced that strong. But the thing is, in India, the racism is on your face. Now, people
Yeah,
would call
yeah,
you out
correct.
and they also expect you to be very okay with it.
So talking about the latest events, I think we are pretty much aware of the George Floyd incident, and I just want to stress for the fact that yes, I mean this is something which is not acceptable, and it has to be condemned. Everyone needs to be punished. People need to learn. Like we coming from India, like the second most populated country in the world, and wherever we are, I mean we come in different colors and we have been facing this for ages. And I just want to say this, that when all this happens and you go online and you see people putting placards, Black Lives Matter, yes they do, they putting, I mean all this is wrong and all that you see online. I mean at the end we are just left with a Twitter tweet that is all we can do. I mean, aren't we like beyond that? Like every time there's something happens, we are seeing online petitions. And the other day, I mean, even Priyam put out a very nice, I think, WhatsApp status message which I saw. Like, when did, I mean, putting out online petitions actually work? I mean, all this is fine, but where do we draw the line that, okay, this is enough? Like, you don't need a George Floyd to die to actually ignite this issue again.
The point here is that as soon as you define a set of people, okay, who have something in common, and you set them aside and you say that you are different, you identify this different, and you separate out your own set of people, it all comes under racism in my point of view. You call it stereotyping, some might call it racism, but they are all the mother of same children of same mother, this or that. I think for the viewers it's important to understand that it's the same issue. Okay, it's about discriminating against the difference that we have. It's not about the difference that we have. Okay, so African American people are dark complexioned. I mean, not most, Caucasian people are light complexioned. Okay, that's a difference. That is a fact. That is there. Okay, but just because someone is from African American descent, discriminating against them, not giving them a job, or giving them a lesser opportunity for education, or giving them a lesser benefit of doubt because of a particular stereotype, which might even ruin their lives, that comes under racism. I think what the problem over here is discrimination rather than identifying the differences in the races.
In India, I mean, we know there are a lot of foreign tourists who come to India every year. For the viewers, I'm not trying to blame, play the blame game or the victim card here. But so whenever I see the Europeans visiting India, I mean, this is something which is very common and it hurts because they come in flocks and they go to places like Varanasi, they go to places in the northern part of India, and what do? They sit among themselves and they don't even talk to Indians. And this is something which I have seen in a show called Bald and Bankrupt, where even the host of the show has actually acknowledged this fact that, when you are bloody visiting India, I mean, come on, the least you could do is actually talk to them. So this is something which I have a problem with because it starts from there. When you call yourself a white man, I mean, people whose skin color is very, very fair, very, very white, I call them white men. So because this treatment for us as Indians, I'm only talking about Indians, probably, I mean, Mexicans will talk about themselves, South Americans will talk about themselves for their treatment from America. But what I want to say is, even, this is the same society who are tweeting right now for the justice for the George Floyd case. This is the same society who actually, when they visit countries like this, they don't even want to talk to the locals. I mean, because why? I mean, there is that hesitation, and somewhat that comes from the upbringing as well. I mean, when you grow up in your own country and you are taught that way. You are taught that way that white is the supreme color, and and this is, and the brown or dark brown, or for that matter, black. I mean, these are not the supreme color. So this is a problem which I have seen in. I just want to highlight this because it really bothers me when I go to places like Varanasi and there are 20 Europeans sitting and they don't even want to look at you and acknowledge you. Either they feel, okay, I mean, probably this guy is darker and he might be dirty. Dirty, okay, that is a problem which we could rectify, but darker, no. I mean, it's not going to help. We are not going to become any whiter again. So this is something which I wanted to talk about because this has been, I've been seeing a lot of travel videos, and many people have actually told this, that whenever they visit Varanasi or places like this, even if you visit places like Kasol, you will have those. Shops where it is exclusively for Europeans. Fine, fair enough. I have no issues with it. But won't you even talk to me? Come on. I mean, come on. I mean, this is outrageous. I mean, I'm not connecting this to racism anyway, but I see a problem there, and this is a problem which will lead to racism. If it is not, then it will lead to it.
They don't do this when they visit other white countries, right? Like Americans visiting Germany. Germans don't. A lot of Germans don't speak English. A lot of Europeans don't speak English, right? But there's no problem over there when they are mingling with the locals. It's just. I think it's just something Asian country specific. Maybe we are poorer or something like that, but still, it's a good point. Yeah.
In India, what I feel is racism is not even that big deal, because we have a bigger problem, which is casteism.
Yeah. Yes.
And we already have a bigger daddy there. So racism is just a normal life for us. We don't, I mean,
casteism, then poverty, I mean, what not?
If you're from not a oppressed caste, and if you go to another country, you feel that skin-based racism. But otherwise, back in India, people with oppressed caste don't have access to higher knowledge or higher studies. They don't have access to better jobs. So this has been going on for decades, and it's a part of society. And I'm glad that a lot of I mean, we have come so far, and there have been a lot of changes in terms of how the society is operating now. But then still there is this casteism plus racism plus stereotyping. It's there's still this kind of air where people are sensitive.
This thing is the fact of our society. If we talk about this in principle, it becomes hard to relate. But let me just share a small ground reality with you, right? Because this thing comes back to haunt you when you are trying to make important decisions for our lives. So now I live here. There's a society over here, and it's just spread around a small area, around a kilometer diameter. And so in this society where I'm currently staying, there a person is actually trying to sell their house. Okay. And they're trying to sell their house, and the major concern of our society members, all the society members over here for right now, is that they might sell the house to someone who comes from a lower caste, because those people are scheduled caste or from scheduled tribe, and this is just like they are still Hindu. Okay. I mean, if they're Muslim, then forget it. If they are Muslim, then they're not getting that house at all. And this is the crude reality of our system in India. It definitely matters. If you belong to a minority, if you are a Muslim, or if you're a person from lower caste, I'm 100% sure that you have faced discrimination in one way or another, especially when you're going out to buy houses or stuff like that. And this has a long-term effect. In a way that see, what will happen is that eventually all the Hindus and all the higher caste people, all these people will start living together in one place. Okay. All the Muslims will start living together in one place. Okay. They won't communicate, they won't mingle. Okay. They don't know anything, they don't know shit about each other. Okay. And then if a small dispute occurs, then all of them start fighting to each other. And since they are not involved with each other socially, they will find it easy to kill each other. See how this small act of racism incites a very long, very strong cycle of hate and violence among communities.
I think we have seen the outcomes of similar incidents earlier this year, before the corona happened in India.
Glorifying ads which we see of fairness creams in India, I think it was not a problem 20 years back, because as a nation we were still learning. But in 2020, this is a problem which I see, and this, I mean, because it's not a problem. You're making a product, you sell. I mean, Fair and Lovely, anybody, Unilever, they're making a product, you sell, fine. But when you are making an ad for making somebody fairer or whiter for that matter, you are actually glorifying the color white.
In general, in Asia, it's not just India. I've also seen the similar advertisement in Thailand, and there I think it's more because people bleach their skins and stuff, glorifying Indian women in a white skin, very unnatural way, and selling your product. It puts more fuel to the mentality that people have that being fair is more prettier than being having a more dark complexion, basically.
Going back to the George Floyd issue, and when this something like this happens, I mean, for this to not happen, I believe strong education is needed. But from what level? Like, how do you actually start? Say, when a child grows up, say somebody in UK or a US, how do you educate them to actually, they grow up to be not like this? Because I mean, the police officer who did this, he was in his probably late 30s or mid 40s, so he was born like 1980s or something. So if a person from that era, so I mean, so we know they don't understand. But how can we educate people that, okay, guys, you have people from all colors, and probably the fairer race is actually lesser in number than the darker race. That's a fact as well. So how do we make people feel, and how also we make people who, I mean, I'm using very kind words, how we make people, you got to teach your child, I mean, they cannot grow up and become like this.
The basis of the whole racism problem everywhere in the world comes from the fact that, okay, so one of the thing is it's a natural human instinct, to distinguish yourself from someone who's looking different. Okay, that's a natural response as a human, and that we understand. But I think it's in this 21st century, we have grown out of all of that instincts, and we've learned to live together peacefully in harmony, appreciating each other's races and cultures. When you as a society, put other culture or other race, and you see them as a second class race, so that obviously will escalate to them having difficulties with a lot of other things settling down in a society, which leads to a lot of other crimes, and it divides a society in such a way that that specific race is looked upon as inferior, I would say.
Inferior, yeah.
A small kid, he sees that, okay, there's a family with different race, they eat, they wear a specific clothes, they live in a specific neighborhood, they eat specific, or they drive specific cars. So he's already making an assumption in his mind, and he's distinguishing himself right there. We are all humans after all, and everything can be made different the way how society is working right now. But people need to open up more, people need to accept more, and people need to forget the past. Obviously, when you give someone some opportunities, there are a lot of possibilities that can happen. People don't do bad things just because they want to, but there are a lot of circumstances that make them go to that path, I would say. So I guess yes, that this can be solved. And how? Well, it has to begin with a very basic level on how we see the people. That's what I feel.
There's nothing wrong with recognizing those differences as long as you don't discriminate. Just first step is to bring such a large change into the society. It has to come from somewhere. It has to come mostly, I guess, from the government. The government has to make efforts to abolish such a social
They need
system.
to acknowledge this as a problem, I think, first.
Yes,
Which,
Yes.
yeah, that is something which I think for Indian society, which is still a long shot because we have other issues, but probably we'll get there eventually. But at least for the other countries, I think, yeah, I mean, acknowledging this as a problem is at least a step forward.
Once those laws are enforced that prevent people from discriminating against each other, they will just, the more and more people will intermix, in the sense that, they'll in the sense of their livelihoods, I would say, that, more and more people will interact with each other. When they interact with each other, they develop empathy. When they develop empathy, they see that, this person might be different in their skin color, or how their hair is, or how they dress, or how they talk, but they aren't really different, because they also, like me, have a family to feed. They have a wife and kids having waiting at home. They have old parents to take care of. They have similar problems, and we're living on the same land. And that empathy will then further translate into compassion, and that will then abolish that discrimination from the society, to the point where government will not have to enforce those laws anymore. Social media has that shady personality. It's always involved in, it's like that shady investment bank which is always involved in some or the other financial fraud, especially when it comes to people, enforcing the political correctness, or people trying to just pose around on social media just to seem socially acceptable, rather than making any advantageous impacts to the society itself. So what are your thoughts around that?
I get very surprised when celebrities write Black Lives Matter, but they don't want to talk about NRC, they don't want to talk about other things, they don't talk about seditions. Because I think, you have to start from your own backyard. We live in that hypocritic world where, a life taken far, far away is, I'm not saying it doesn't matter, it does, everything matters, but how we as a society only react to problems in the West. And coming from India, I mean, we all know what's been going on and what has happened in the last 1 year, and there are so many issues to talk about.
I think there is a voice which has already been raised, and you supporting that is good. But then, you also have to raise your voice against the migrant lives that matter in India.
For last 1 month, there have been migrants, lakhs and lakhs of migrants who are not being able to go home. Like, if anything happens, your country is gonna stop. Like, it will stop functioning. There is no labor to do stuff. I mean, they are not being able to go home. I agree, Black Lives Matter. There is no second thought about it. But why don't you tweet about that? Why don't you write that? Why don't you write that? Does government do enough for the migrants? Do you have the balls to write that? I just want to talk about this because celebrities often take the easier path of following a trend. Oh, fine, let's condemn it. Oh, we condemn animal deaths. When an elephant was the recent elephant incident in India, oh, everybody went on a rampage to sign online petitions. Online, okay, if I go and sign an online petition, is it gonna solve this issue? I'm not gonna talk about Tom Cruise or Will Smith, but I'm gonna talk about Indian celebrities because I think they should now probably be more sensitive and more informative. Sensitive, I think, is something which I would have told them 10 years back, but now they have to be more informative, more knowledgeable. You have to have that knowledge because you are traveling all sorts of places, you are working with all sorts of people, you are tweeting all sorts of garbage, but you don't have time to tweet this.
These are the set of people who have most viewership on that platform,
It
I
is
would
very
say.
surprising when Narendra Modi's Swachh Bharat Abhiyan was going on, and every Tom, Dick, and Harry went with the broom out, went to a village, started got a pose with it, and they posted, and it got retweeted. Every actor has done this. So I mean, come on, like cleaning your house
And
is not Swachh Bharat Abhiyan. That has to be done.
Swachh Bharat Abhiyan is still going on. It's not,
Yeah.
it wasn't a one time thing. It's an ongoing thing.
It's not that great when 1,000 buds are falling on the road, which is actually actually creating havoc. I mean, these are the things also, I mean, just adding, that's all, just adding in the show. I mean, today we're talking about racism, but I think these are few things where it all starts. I was 20 years old 10 years back, so we are also growing. I mean, probably I am better than what I was 5 years back. So, I mean, I think we all need to learn.
It's good that we are talking about all these different topics and all these, things that we have inside us. To all of those people who are raising concerns, please don't ignore, your own surroundings and the country you live in.
So, guys, thank you very much for being in this podcast. Thank you, Priyam. Thank you, Rushan. And viewers, please like, comment, subscribe. Put down your comment section. Tell us what more you want us to talk about, and we will get back. Until then, guys, see you again.